Hello everyone, we're just under 8 minutes away from starting the stream. Obviously, the hot topic for today will be the account suspensions, and we know everyone wants to talk about it. We do too. We do want to make sure though that we get that news and all of those discussions at the start of the stream, so we can, make sure that the things that you want to talk about are dealt with. We will not be talking about it for the whole stream because there are other things that we want to talk about. Because there's a bunch of other players out there that want to talk about other stuff, and we do too. Keep it respectful. We do love your opinions, and we will continue to make sure that your opinions are heard. So you will not get banned from chat or anywhere by stating your opinion. But as always, if you are vitriolic or hateful or all these sorts of things, we'll make sure that it doesn't ever have a place in our chat, regardless of the time. So anyway, stay tuned for that discussion. We'll make that happen first. We appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you soon. Actually, we'll use this opportunity to unmute our guests for today. We've got Bruce and Chris. 1 second. Hey, Bruce, Chris, what's up?
Hi,
Hello.
chat.
Hey, chat.
There we go. We've got you. It looks like you're coming through loud and clear. Can we get a bit more audio from you?
From us? Yes, of course we can. Bruce and I were just born for this, especially Bruce.
I got a face for radio.
Yeah. We should do this in radio form. Then we don't have to wear
I
any
love this
clothes.
sentence.
I mean,
I
I'm wearing
love
like
this.
short running shorts because who's going to possibly know that?
Yeah, I also can't get up this time. I'm not wearing any pants.
I got up and put a jacket on so that I could bring some semblance of professionalism to this broadcast. Yeah.
I like it.
Also, just so you know,
I am wearing
chat,
shorts underneath.
we're very aware of everything that people are talking about right now. We see you saying bandwidths and all of these sorts of things. We won't spend all chat responding to all of those things. It just holds the content hostage. We have a lot to talk about. We are obviously looking at you, but just know that yelling into chat is not necessarily going to inform the content of the stream. We will make sure that we cover everything that you want to hear about. Well, most things that you want to hear about. Because I know a lot of people say like, oh, okay, Chris, Bruce, you've probably seen this as well. People saying like, oh, they're probably not going to do a stream today, or they're hiding, and that's never been the way that we do things. That's not our flavor. We want to talk about things and make sure that we, chat about the things that are important, regardless of if they're fun or not, because there's a reality out there and we want to address it. Anyway, we are just under 5 minutes away from starting the stream. We will talk to you in just a second. Stay tuned. It'll be cool.
See you soon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Game 154. It is April Fool's, which is kind of, I was going to say fortuitous, but it's really not, because today we are very aware. Oh, sorry about that. That the chat's going to be pretty spicy. I just want to make sure that you know that we need to make sure that things stay as respectful as possible. Hey, look, I mean, we respect our audience enough to do this stream. Even though sometimes it's hard, we would just hope that you respect us enough to try and keep chat cool. Criticism is totally fine and warranted, but keep it constructive, be respectful, be cool, and we're going to have no problems. All right, I'm going to make sure that we bring in Chris and Bruce, and we get started with the thing I know people want to talk about. We want to talk about the sanctions that have been taken against accounts, like the suspensions and stuff. So we're going to kick it off with the thing that everyone wants to talk about, us included. All right, Chris, Bruce, how you doing?
Hi there.
Hey guys.
You should all be coming through nice and loud. People
Awesome.
Also saying, hey, this is a pre-record. No, that's definitely not the case.
No.
Because we probably would have made sure that Bruce's camera didn't look as, film noir. But
I'm in my French period right now,
There you go.
Yeah.
Right,
I also don't think that pre-recording this would have worked in these times from working from home. Like getting that all set up is quite difficult, and then streaming it and everything. I don't think that's going to help us.
Yeah,
would have been a hell of an April Fool's joke.
I mean, that's true. Now that you say, actually, no.
Too late. Right. So let's kick it off. I know, people will be spicy. It's understandable. The thing is, we've never been. And this is something I'm proud of, and I'm not proud of much, but this is one thing. We've never been ones to shy away from difficult streams or difficult conversations. So let's get cracking with it. Chris, can you give us a little bit of also? Let's start things off with a bit of context, a bit of history about what's been going on. So for people who maybe don't know, or are just showing up into the chat and being like, "What is happening?" Where are we at?
Yeah, so again, I just want to mention that because you said it in the intro. So we'll address the suspension wave right now and the DPX exploit right now, and then we'll also move on. So if you need to clip it or whatever you need to do, this is the time. So we were made aware of a DPS exploit that was done by interacting with a turret, and there were different variations of it and all that stuff. And we were trying to fix it as quickly as we can, but unfortunately there were different levels of the fixes that went out that didn't fully work. So people found new ways to do it. And then we were finally able to fix it to a point where we were comfortable to look into other things that would happen to the people that have systematically exploited this bug, right?
Can we just hit the timeline a little bit? So when did this happen? Because I think the date of the 17th is going to be, something.
Exactly. Yeah, about. Exactly. So it's the week of the 17th is basically when we were made aware of this. We also, if I remember correctly, already put out a fix on the 20th to work on this and improve the situation. And then over the weekend, we learned that there was more, and we did more fixes the week afterwards to help with this. And then basically last week is where we were at a point where we first had another fix go out that stopped interaction to allow the ridiculous amount of damage stacking. And I want to say this now. Yes, we are aware that there's more out there, and we're going to work on that. But at that point, we were also lucky enough to have the time and breathe over the weekend to make sure that we can look at data to identify people that have used the exploit. So, and I say lucky not because we're lucky in terms of, we just found it, but it's like it gave us some more time to look at the data and also find out what are the criteria that we want to use.
Sure. So we're now in the situation where yesterday, people who have had their account flagged with that activity, we won't go into exactly the numbers of people that have had that or exactly the numbers that have been used to detect that. But those people were given a 1-week suspension and a rollback to the 17th, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. I also want to say, like, I've seen some comments of people saying, like, oh, like you probably looked at my group, or you looked at, like, I did something with other people and stuff like that. I just want to clarify, and Hamish said it very well. We will not tell you how exactly we detected it, simply because we don't want other people to avoid this detection method in case something else comes up and down the line. But we looked at a account. So we didn't look at who you were in a group. We didn't look at if you were doing something else with some people. If there were 50 million other people, it doesn't really matter. We really looked at your account and what you have been doing with the data and the criteria that we had. So this gave us a very strong confidence on the suspensions, because we could rule out that you were basically just caught in a random matchmaking group. That had nothing to do with the suspension at all.
Sure. One of the things that I've also seen a lot of people talking about is, we're using our methods of detection for these things, but the narrative around false positives, right? Some people who are saying that they've been grouped up with people or it happened. I've been talking to some people who have been part of the team that have put this suspension wave together, and also it's better to call what it is because there have been no bans. Let's make sure that we call it what it is. No one has been banned. So everyone who's had action taken against their account will be able to play the game again next week. But when we do get reports, and you should report if you feel like actions have been taken against your account unfairly, do let us know. That's the same with everything. Every time there's bugs or things that you don't think are going right, we do want to know about it. But those have been independently looked at where we can on those cases. And what we've seen is that, in reality, those accounts that have claimed that have been shown to have that they've been basically exploiting. That's not to say that there haven't been some false positives, so do keep letting us know if you have been unfairly had sanctions taken against your account, so Ubisoft support can help you out.
Yeah, and that is more a general thing, right? Like if you ever feel like there's something wrong with your account, or if you feel that you weren't even online the last 2 weeks, reach out. We, again, have been very diligent on doing this. That's why we didn't do it last week. We took the extra time, and that's where we are right now. One thing that I want to also say, because you brought it up a little bit, narrative, right? So I've seen a lot of people on Twitter tagging me and on Reddit and everything, saying like, oh, like it's they suspended like 50% of the player base. Nowhere near that amount, not at all. We're also seeing a lot of people that had no idea what that exploit is. You have to understand, Reddit is not the universe. There are a lot of people that have never been on Reddit. They never go on Twitter. They don't do anything. They just play the game on their Xbox or on their PlayStation or the PC and Stadia, and they just play with their friends and they have a good time. We have millions of players, and while the suspension wave was significant, it was nowhere near 50% or anything like that. So I just want to stop that narrative, and also then have that discussion end up of being misleading, where people are saying like, oh, like next week there will be no players anymore, there will be no matchmaking. Absolute nonsense. There will be enough players for you to play, and again, the majority of people did not use any exploits.
It's also worth noting that there has been statements made after the fact about what will happen to people, because there's been reports of other ways to do similar exploits and that sort of thing. Can we be very clear about what will happen to people who do such things that are against the terms of service? I guess in both cases, if they have already had sanctions taken against their account or if they haven't.
Yeah, I think it's really important to once again clarify that we do take actions when we can verify for 100% what's happening. So if we find an exploit, if we can reproduce it, if we can fix it, all that stuff is great. And then again, we will look at our data. We can't look at player reports only. We can't look at screenshots or on clips or whatever. That is not enough for us. We need to be 100% certain that what we're doing is correct. So for every exploit, no matter what it is, we will look at our internal findings. Obviously, we're going to use the reports that we're getting to make some connections and all that stuff. So please send them over. That's totally important. But then on your first offense, as we now did it, you'll get a 7-day suspension. And if there's another exploit and you haven't learned from the first exploit happening and you're using it and you're getting a suspension, the next one can be a permanent suspension. That means you will lose access to your Division 2 account.
Great. Okay, cool. I think we're pretty clear on that. I think players know what's up, so you know what to do.
Yes.
If we do come across anything else we want to say about the situation, we will do so. But like we said earlier in the stream, we have a lot of other stuff to talk about because there are constant maintenances and updates to the game, and we want to address those too. Again, like I said before, if you feel like there's been sanctions taken against your account unfairly, do let support know or let us know. But as it stands right now, if we're looking at those things independently, we haven't found a false positive yet. And we have been looking at that. Okay. Bruce. Sorry, man. You awake? Or are you doing your best Yannick impression? Can't tell. I actually think maybe they're frozen. Oh my god. My computer has actually frozen. I'm not even kidding. They're not doing their best Yannick impression. My laptop has frozen. I'm going to restart that and get them back here. Who knew? I'm not even kidding you. We'll be back. Let me just cut to this and I will bring them back in a sec. I actually have to force restart my laptop. But the good thing is I'm not doing the stream on the laptop. I'm doing it actually on my other computer. The joys of working from home. That is actually poetic. I mean, yeah, we're throwing this stream together from home on, a bit of a jerry rig, and these things happen. Have I been licking my paintbrushes lunch clops? No, I haven't. Chat is really moving today like a hero. It's tricky because it's hard to respond to it when we can't really read the big ones. Ban the laptop. All right, I will ban the laptop. Sorry, just logging back in. Hopefully I can get Chris and Bruce back in a Discord chat real fast. Redundant systems. Yeah, see, this is how you got to run a stream. See, if my computer had frozen, no one would know what was happening. But look, I'll use this opportunity to tell you how the setup's put together. Because right now I'm in my home. I have a laptop that I'm running Discord off. That's running it over NDI. I do want to make sure that I close a few things so we don't get some notifications, but it should come in pretty quick. We'll see. I mean, I know people. Oh, hang on. I think I got you back. Let's. All right. I think we're okay. All right. No IT. I don't want my new software updates right now. Maybe. All right. I think. Can we hear you, Chris? No, it's not coming through yet. I need to do some stuff. I don't know why. You guys can just keep chatting away. I'll try and adjust this on the fly. This is really fun. Chris, you do? That's so nice. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. Almost there. Streaming bug, real cool. I mean, it is, side effect of working from home. Sorry about it, chat. Almost there. I've got my NDI source almost running. How about now?
Let's see how it's working now.
Oh, yeah, I figured it out.
Cool.
There we go. We are up and running again. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome back. Bruce, where we left off with you, I thought you were doing your best Yannick impression, but you were actually just frozen.
Am I live? Okay. Am I moving? Yes.
Yeah, you are. Fantastic.
I'm not a French impressionist painting. I'm just a French film noir,
There you go. So TU 8.5 is scheduled to come out next week.
Yes.
There's some key things in there. Control points resetting when changing global difficulty, allowing people to replay them. The one I want to talk to you about, Bruce, the Striker gear set stack's not working properly. You up to date on that one?
I have not personally
Okay.
worked on that, so I'm not entirely sure what the status is on that.
Okay. I'm told it's fixed next
Unfortunately.
week, so that's cool.
Yes, it is.
right,
Nice way to put Bruce in the spot.
Sorry, Bruce. The balance changes for specific NPCs that are coming next week. How about the balance changes?
Those are some that Mackenzie has worked on. I think, Bruce, you might know some of the BTSU changes and things like that, right? Like, I know that you mentioned that there's more of those coming as well.
Yeah, again, so that's more Mackenzie's domain. I can talk more about sort of general balance RPG stuff, but we are absolutely still, we're addressing and monitoring the current overall balance of the game, and we're now focusing more on particular outliers, like warhounds and certain status effects or elements that are in the environment that are causing pain points, like poison or fire or gas, these sort of things. We're doing our best to find the edge cases that are still not behaving the way we want. Like I said this earlier offline in our chat, that at no point do we expect you, or there should be no mechanic in the game where you're running along and you've got full health or armor and then you're just one shot. Like that's not intentional. So when we find those instances, we're addressing them as we can.
Okay, good to know. Sorry, I just slapped
but
my thigh.
we can segue into discussing sort of the state of the balance overall and how things are going. I know I don't know if we want to stick to the original script, but
you do you, man. I like this segue.
Yeah, one thing that I want to point out before we move on. So the 8.5 changes that are coming next week and the exact days to be seen. Obviously, again, we're working from home. That also applies to other people that are not in our studio. So like third parties that have to validate our builds and everything. They also need some more time. So we will get you an exact date out as soon as possible. It's likely to be the Tuesday, which is our normal maintenance. And if you haven't seen the post yet, so on our general forums, there's a thread that has all the changes that are coming with 8.5. As Hamish has said, for example, the biggest one, I think, for many people is that you can control point reset by changing global difficulty. So if you want to have a deep dive into those changes, have a look. And then now we can talk about the general balance. I think that's a good segue.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about the sort of the work from home situation. It's definitely, people ask like, what's happening at Massive? What are we doing? One of the biggest things that we're doing is adjusting to the work from home situation. And there's no way, full disclosure, it's definitely had an impact, and it's made it difficult for us to have as much clarity or visibility on what everyone's working on. So it's difficult for me to necessarily comment in confidence on particular things that are falling under certain designers who, we have our syncs when we can, and we try to talk as frequently as often. But it's certainly challenging, but I feel like we're starting to get our a grip on it, and finding our momentum again.
Maybe on that topic as well, like I think just to give you a view into the studio as well, normally like Bruce and Mackenzie and everybody else, like they share a space in the office, right? So it's much more easy to just overhear conversations. You see people drawing something up on the whiteboard. You have way more frequent meetings as well. I think that is a fact that, for me as a comm dev, I'm not as impacted because I do most of my work. I can do it on the phone basically, but I know for you guys, it's really, really difficult because you can't just like walk over to somebody and ask them. You have to chat it up, and then maybe they're in a meeting right now, or on, text chat is always a little bit confusing if you don't know exactly the intent or the full context and all that stuff. So the impact on us is not only that we have different tools and we have to do some odd things to get access to the developer builds, but also just the interaction between us as people is so much slower right now.
Yeah, it cannot be overstated how much easier it is when you're all under one roof and you can turn your chair and lean back and poke somebody and get a status update or info that you aren't necessarily otherwise privy to because of sort of the channels from which information flows and whatnot through different departments. But what we can talk about today is some of the more high level things that we're working on currently and will be coming out in 8.5 and then future updates further down the line.
Cool.
So I don't know if there's
Sounds
one
good.
thing in particular that we could like jump into, but maybe we could just start with sort of the general, I guess, post NPC adjustments with how the group scaling feels and the difficulty of challenging versus heroic and all that stuff. I think I can speak for everyone on the design team when I say that we're pretty happy with where things landed. But like I said earlier, we're still paying attention to, or now rather we're focusing on outliers and certain things that we can't necessarily address with a more blanket pass on NPC armor and health values or their damage. So now we're focusing again, like I mentioned earlier, things like True Suns and explosive ammo. For example, it's very easy to suddenly feel and be, for all intents and purposes, very tanky. You have 1.6 million armor, or 1.3 million armor, and you've got your shield out, and then suddenly a veteran turns around and just blows you up in about 3 seconds. That's not, that's something that we need to look into and address, and that's still part of what we're working on.
Great. I mean, when it comes to various balance things, you say outliers, right? I mean, there's been some discussion about things like the classic M1A. I myself am running one. I asked you before the stream about the build that I'm running. Like, is it intended, for example, that we can just not have to scope in and still get the headshot bonus damage by using the Crusader Shield and the M1A? Things like that.
So I can comment on that particular example. So the M1A Classic or the Classic M1A and Striker or Crusader Shield and Focus is certainly has risen up to the top of the meta pile currently, and is very powerful and effective.
Crazy powerful. That's why I'm using it.
Yeah, it's very strong. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily working as intended, and you should only be getting the focus buff when you're actually aiming through a scope that's 8 or 12x, a high-powered scope. So we have a fix slated for further down the line to address that. We're still discussing exactly what what our intentions are there. It's difficult to balance around a combination of precision, damage, and being able to also have the safety of a shield in front of you. Even though a lot of those builds are very squishy, it's not exactly copacetic with the fantasy of a sharpshooter, if you catch my drift. So we're still discussing it. We're also aware of just sort of the ongoing conversation right now that there's a sentiment amongst the community and maybe the sort of higher echelons or higher tier players that there's not a lot of variety in builds. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with some overtuned named items that we will, so that we're okay with best in slot items. We have no problem with that, and we want to maintain that as well. However, we did, unfortunately, we simply got the numbers wrong in a few cases, and it's out there now. I was discussing it last night, so none of this is like I'm going to be a surprise to anyone, but Fox's Prayer, Contractor's Gloves, and the Hollow Man, unfortunately, like I said, the math just wasn't. We didn't do due diligence on that, so they're slightly overtuned. We're going to address that. They're still going to be very powerful, though. They're going to do what they say on the tin, and they're going to be very effective at what they do. And we want there to be certain best in slot items because we want to validate the chase, and we want it to feel good when you get these things. Unfortunately, there's sort of like, it's a complex sort of combinatorics where not only those three particular named items have three very powerful attribute roles on them, but they're also on brand sets that are sort of further compounding the issue, because Contractor Gloves is an LMG brand and Fox's Prayer is a rifle brand. So they sort of go part and parcel with our two sort of like, quote unquote meta guns, LMGs and rifles. So we have some plans to address that. One in particular is that we're going to bring assault rifles. They are rolling damage to health. Their rolls currently are too low, so that will get a bump. And we're also going to bring up the numbers and improve and buff some of the underperforming named items as well. So things like Punch Drunk is going to have, again, the numbers aren't quite final yet. We're still in the process of working on it, but Punch Drunk is going to have, I think we're playing with, 20% headshot damage rather than just the 10.9 that it is right now. So cool. That's going to receive a buff. Claws Out is going from, Claws Out is actually quite bugged. So it's going to roll with a skill tier for a core attribute, as it always should have. It's going to have additional pistol damage, and we're going to buff the melee damage from 200 to 500% or something like that. So just to sort of, play into the rip and tear fantasy that we're trying to evoke with that item.
Cool. And of course,
there's more we could talk about in terms of sort of perception and talents as well. Like, I do think it's worth addressing the conversation around build diversity. I don't know if we want to go into that.
Yeah, I think it's really good, especially because like we talked about this a little bit about what we see on social media and Reddit and all that stuff, and then what we see in our internal data and how people are building a lot more diverse things. So maybe you can talk about how you look at that specifically.
Yeah, so sort of part of this, like, the only viable builds are LMGs or an MG5 and a classic M1A. We know that it's not really true, and there is actually quite a lot of diversity. It just so happens that perception is 9/10 of the law, so it's very easy to sort of get wrapped up in this community sentiment or community narrative that there's not a lot of options. We're privy to big data and analytics, so we actually have more concrete numbers to back up our suspicions that there is some variety. In particular with skill builds as well, people say like, oh, skill builds are useless, or there's no point in having a skill build. Well, they're quite valid, and they're quite popular. Hardwired as a set it's up in our top 5 of gear sets and what people wear in terms of talents and whatnot. So, and Unbreakable, is at the top still. So it's not just people running around with Vigilance and Glass Cannon or Focus. There's quite a bit of diversity there. But we do acknowledge the fact that there are, certainly there's a niche, and that niche is very strong. So we're working on sort of addressing that. And I want to repeat myself here. We don't like I said, we're okay with best in slot items. We're not going to just suddenly nerf the classic M1A into the ground, or the MG5 or the Bullet King or what have you. We're going to just do our best to maintain the strength of, easy access to different play styles. That's our prerogative. Like, that's our main goal as far as the balance is concerned. And it's no fun if only, if the best build is the holy trinity of the Hollow Man, Fox's Prayer, and Contractor Gloves, and a classic M1A and a Striker Shield with Focus, then it's not really fun for anyone. So we're going to do our best to sort of bring up the underperformers and address the few outliers.
Cool. I'm really excited for what you said about the potential AR buffs coming in. I think that one kind of flew under the radar of a lot of people.
Yeah, and again, that's just a good example of, that's on us. We got the numbers wrong. We mathed we did quick math and fudged a bit. So we're going to address those.
Cool. No, it's good to hear that you can do some better stuff. I like it.
And for go a little bit back on how we're going to present it, because now obviously Bruce is saying something and then chat is like, hey, I'm only heard half a sentence, or you're nerfing the things that I like and all that stuff. We will make sure to give you a heads up on what's coming, again with 8.5, but also with what we currently call TU9, which is coming later in April. So you can give us feedback on that as well. You can give us reactions to that. You've seen a couple of the first passes on exotics as well that Matt did. You see those, and we can like maybe have a small segue into this and say like we are also looking at exotics, right?
Yeah. So what's out there now is sort of the first step in number one. We acknowledge that some of the exotics aren't performing as well as they should be and are underwhelming, and we're going to address that. So this is the first step in that process, but it's sort of the first stage in a 2-stage rocket, and unfortunately we've had to delay. We would love to make one big package, right, and improve everything in one fell sweep, but the work from home situation obviously is challenging, and we're doing our best to get what we can done while also working on content and whatnot, in addition to balance and stuff. But for sure, exotics are on the plate. We had a sync last week, a very productive meeting looking at what we want to do, and I'm excited for that. There was one. I feel like I would be remiss this one if I don't mention it, because it's something that sort of has squeaked in, and I think is going to also help with this sentiment of there not being a lot of build diversity, and not in the near future, but soon, we're going to be allowing players to loot the currently Raid 1 exclusive chest and backpacks for Tip of the Spear, Negotiator's Dilemma, and Aces and Eights. So right now, it's I think part of the perception of there not being many builds is that unfortunately, half of the sets are, or almost half of the sets are their full potential or their full power is locked behind a raid. So we're going to open that up as well, so that you can acquire the backpack and the chest pieces outside of the raid.
You spoiled Nikki's update for next week, but yes.
Or was I supposed to stay mum on that? Okay,
it's fine. We'll talk.
Now it's out there. It's fine. I think people are also happy.
Apologies to Nikki.
That's fine. Yeah, one thing that I want to add to this as well, like because I mentioned Nikki now, we also have lots more to talk about. So like, we're continuing to do State of the Game from home, but we have Bruce on, this week. Next week, Nikki will be on. He'll also talk about more about exotics and stuff like that, and maybe even something that people will be excited about is the upgrade for exotics. No details yet, but will be topic next week. So we will have more info on that. So we'll try to continue giving you like these little small tidbits that hopefully then will give you the big picture that we want to show you, that we're just currently a little bit slow on because we're at home.
Yeah, exactly. So the roadmap, just for people as an update, TU 8.5 is slated to come next week, correct?
Yep.
And then we're looking at later this month, putting out TU 9. So there's a lot of changes coming, and updates and things being addressed and all that sort of thing. I do want to move on. We're already over the usual time we have, but there's a lot of important stuff to talk about. I do want to kind of go back to the current status of the seasons, because we're still in season 1, Shadowtide, and the next target, Venus, has become available as of today.
Yeah, exactly. Like you will now be able to hunt her down in Washington as well. That also opens up some more control points that you can reset. Do keep in mind, I've seen a couple of people resetting their manhunt to do control points. If you don't finish a target fully, it will reset your progress. It does what it says on the button, so be careful with the button. So if you want to finish Venus first, make sure that you do that. There's a bunch of control points with that as well, so you'll have some new blueprints and all that. Additionally, there's also a double XP event right now going on, as with all new targets. So if you are a little bit behind in levels, you can have a good boost on those as well.
Okay, cool. I also, while I think of it, some people are saying, well, I've had sanctions taken against my account and I can't play for 7 days, and I'm not going to be able to do the Venus target stuff. That's not
No.
how it works, right? We talked about
No.
on the stream last week. You still have access to those other targets. So even if you haven't done the first one, you can do that before the whole event ends. It's still going to be available to you. So don't worry about that.
All targets are available until the end of the season. So there's no rush. Even if you currently say I'd rather wait for the next league or for the next global event, that's totally fine. You don't have to do them when they come around. The only thing that will go away is the double XP event that only lasts for this week.
Cool. The other thing is obviously the Urban Jungle Apparel event is live now. So there's 4 new outfits, 4 new weapon skins. There's a mask. The mask is super cool. If you haven't seen it, I'm actually going to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring up stuff from last week, but I really want to show this mask again because it's super cool. You can now hunt that down, and there's 10 other clothing items. I just need that mask. That's what I need.
Yes, and when you log in, you get a free key for it as well. So part of the season for level 40 players, if you log in, you get a free key and get an item. And then also, you can obviously purchase them if you don't want to do the shade level things, and which was quite popular by for some players, is you can also gift keys to friends. I know sellout and all that, but I know that a lot of people are very much looking forward to giving friends that might not be able to get all of that, the rest of the keys that they need. So I think it's a very nice thing for people to do if they want to.
All right, perfect. And that one. So the event, actually, Chris, I was asking you to maybe clarify this. So March 31st, the Urban Jungle event starts. April 20th, it ends, and then there's a week of redemption. Is that?
I did not do my due diligence and check it. I think that is the case, but I don't know. I don't want to say anything right now because I just don't know.
Okay, I have here.
We'll make sure that it's explained next week. I'm going to put a post-it up on my monitor here.
Okay.
And obviously, we can also post it today on forums or wherever you have the question.
Right. Before we end the stream, actually, I want to, because we said before, we spent a large chunk of this stream addressing the biggest hot topic in the community right now, obviously the account sanctions that have taken place. If you do want to find out more about that, or if you missed it, that was at the front of the stream, so you can go back and watch that. But there is obviously a lot of people out there who are enjoying other parts of the division, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure we do agent highlights for the week. So I have a couple of things that that George managed to find, which I think are super cool, and I want to take a look at this first one from Jarui, which is the coolest. I wish I could bring this up higher res, but that's the composition of that whole thing is super, super cool. I love that. I don't know if you guys are watching the stream, Chris, Bruce.
Yeah, the lighting is fantastic.
Yeah. So if you are a fan of awesome art, go and follow Xiaorui R on Twitter. Super, super cool. Love it. So please keep those ones coming in. I have some more art as well from Serenius with this. Really cool as well. Again, completely different style, but super cool as well. A little bit.
I think this resembles a lot of us during the stay at home part, where we just sit around and do silly things with our partners. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to try that pose out with my girlfriend later.
Yeah, please do, and please hashtag agent highlights for that, Chris, so I can share it next week. Please.
Do you have a TikTok?
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Oh no, I'm too boomer for a TikTok.
All right, sorry, I went back to this other one, but it's super cool. All right, so like I said before, if you wanted to find out more about our chat, about what happened with account sections, that's at the front of the stream. I've seen, we always knew these streams are, they're kind of tough to do, but I think they're important to do. I saw some conversation in chat, you must be really embarrassed doing the stream. I wouldn't say it's that. I would say it's just, some things are hard to talk about, and sometimes tough thing happens. I would personally be more embarrassed if we just didn't do a stream and we just canceled it and didn't want to talk about it and did the whole thing where we bury our heads in the sand and whatever. That's not going to help anyone. So you've always had a commitment from us here on the division that we will have the discussions that are tricky. So I want to thank Bruce and Chris for being part of that. It's tricky to talk about, right?
It is.
But it's the reality that we're all facing. It's hard. But again, we want to make sure that you're all aware of what's going on. As a sideshow, I hope you're all taking care of yourself and making sure that you, washing your hands and doing all that good stuff.
Yes, please stay safe, stay in with your friends and family, and make sure that you follow all the rules that Hamish said, like washing hands. Yeah. It's really important.
Yeah, because we care about you.
Apart.
Yep, 2 meters.
Yeah.
2
meters.
Okay.
Is it Canadian meters or European meters?
It's I don't know. It's always in flux.
Exactly.
But enjoy video games. I mean, if you've had sanctions against your account, you'll have to enjoy a different video game for a week. But there are a lot of those too. But we will catch you again next week. Hopefully we can get on and do some gameplay streams. It's been a crazy time, so we haven't had a chance to do that. But we'll continue showing up and telling you what's happening. If you want to have updates as they come to light, Twitter is always the best place for that, forums. And like we said before, keep reporting things. Keep letting us know if there are things that you want to give us feedback on or criticize. That's always something we welcome. But keep it cool and respectful, and we'll do the same. All right, that's going to be all for the stream today, and we'll catch you again next week or before if we manage to do some gameplay streams. Cool?
Have a good night.
Guys.
Take it easy.
Night, everyone.